Hi, welcome to Pundits Pundit this evening. We have a great show in store for you, and we've got to my right, the right man for the job, Mr. Scott Motormouth Morganroth. What's up, sir? How are you doing?
Good to see you, Jennifer. Fresh FOR, fresh off the road, man. 3,365 miles and 12 days up to Wisconsin style. And here we're back in the sunny South.
Love it.
And if you wonder why I'm wearing the Jacksonville Jaguars hat, I'll tip my cap right now. Okay. Be up there this weekend covering the Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. Looking forward to that.
That's awesome. I hope you guys have an answer for Derrick Henry. He's the best part of the Titans.
He's the only part right now.
Right.
Exactly. Well, we can handle the quarterback situation. We should. Yeah. I like our quarterback with Trevor Lawrence and our coach Doug Peterson. So.
And then I just switched it to make things all right in the pundit world. Mr. Jacob Christner, the pundit.
Save the best for first.
Exactly. And we have a great show for everybody tonight. I'm going to be in and out because I keep losing internet. So
she's on AOL. She's on AOL from 1995. Don't give her anything.
Is that the dial-up version?
Yep. Yes, sir. With the landline and everything. But which hard-hitting topic did we want to hit first tonight? I'm thinking Damar Hamlin and his toy drive.
Well, I wanted to say this though. We're gonna get on to the Hamlin, but I want to say this. I say we give a good memory. Let's give a good all that for Barbara Walters. Yes. None of us are here without her.
None of us are.
That's a good point.
And I actually did some research just so I could keep it in the athletic realm of the, most fascinating athlete she interviewed.
Who was that? Well, that's going on with her. I was going to say this. Scott. The biggest thing about it is you see someone like her, and she went into the world when it was all men.
Right.
And she went and it's like, and I knew somebody that did that in the 40s, but this was down in my little town. And her name was, she did it in the newspaper. Her name was B.J. Adams. She called it B.J. the letters. And then once they knew she was a woman, she's B.E.E.J.A.Y. And she did that in the 40s and the 50s. And then she opened a beer distributorship. But the biggest thing about it is that was on a smaller level. This is a big level. She went in and took over her, and I mean, she could have easily been kicked out. She probably took all kinds,
Right.
So
yeah. Well, what I remember about her, and I'm the senior member of the crew here, okay, is I go back to the Today Show when she was working with Frank Blair and the rest of that crew, and her work with the Today Show was unbelievable for NBC. And then she would later go on with Hugh Downs and do it. They were great at 2020. I used to watch the show religiously. So, and we all know that 2020 is like a spinoff of 60 Minutes, which I love both shows. Anytime you can have shows that, take you out of the sports world. There were some sports related topics, a lot of them not. But Barbara Walters, like you say, Jacob, she to me was a pioneer and allowed a lot of women to get their starts. Without people like Barbara Walters, you don't have Phyllis Georges or Gail Gardners or a lot of the people in it. So Barbara Walters lived till she was 93, and we all know about her background, interviewing politicians, presidents, and everything that was newsworthy on the planet. So,
oh yeah, and well, one of the things with her is I think the only mistake she made, it was like the last 5 or 6 years, is I call it the spew. She helped bring the View in, which I can't stand that. But the biggest thing about it is, it's not up to us. Even if I can't stand the View, it's not up to us. We're one or two if we don't like it or whatever. There's millions that do, and it's a 25-year show.
Right.
And that's one thing I have to remember every single day when I'm getting all this is like, we're just sound like crybabies if we just say, oh, I hate it. Why is it on here? It's on for a reason.
Well, The way I look at a view, the word view, Jacob, okay, and I know you and I are doing our fair share of one-on-one interviews. I don't care what the view is as long as you've got enough facts to back up your opinion. That's
Well,
what
they
they
never
teach
do.
in.
They
Yeah,
never
that's
do.
what they
A
teach
bunch of
in journalism. I mean, Marshall McLuhan, I don't know if you've ever heard the name many years ago, said the medium is a message. Little did he ever think that he had to deal with it along these lines. Holy moly, but still. The view doesn't matter as long as you got facts to back up your opinion. But Barbara Walters was an exceptional interviewer. So
Oh,
when
I
you
meant
take
the show The View.
pardon me?
I'm in the show The View. She started The View, and it's like I call it the spew,
Right.
the shrews. It's like but like I said, I can say all of these things about
Mhm.
that, but at the end, I'm going to continue to say the thing, but I'm only one. You're only two. You're the second, and it's like if we don't like, if any of us don't like it, millions do, and
Right.
she got something that's lasted this long. It's over 25 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean,
I know, and those are the things to say with that. And really, though, we look at that, and then she did the Barbara Walters special. Here's the thing, she became mocked on Saturday Night Live with that voice of hers, which was, I can't understand what that voice was. I mean, it didn't sound exactly New York. It sounded a little bit kind of like Jessica Fletcher's version of New England, during the Cabot Cove and Murder, She Wrote.
yeah, I think the one thing about Barbara Walters that made her such an iconic individual was she could move around to different things. If you needed her to be a news reporter, she could do it, a news anchor, an interviewer. And nowadays, you cannot be a one trick pony. You cannot do it. You
Yeah,
can, but I don't think it'd be very good. And you're not going to be as valuable to your organization if you're limiting yourself.
right.
And I think that's what made her. I mean, yeah, obviously a pioneer. Let me tell you, earlier this year or within the past year, I know some of my favorite pioneer people, even in the sports world, was another one by the name of Leslie Visser.
Yeah.
And she was unbelievable. And I had a chance to write a story many years ago on her. And then I reconnected with her over at an event out in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And the list of women go on and on. But the reason why I'm bringing these individuals up is if it weren't for Barbara Walters, a Leslie Visser's, a Michelle Tafoya's, the Phyllis George's, they don't have jobs.
Right. And understood. And you get, Michelle Tafoya, especially, and that's where we can tell life is starting to fly by. It really is. Because Michelle Tafoya is considered a veteran, which
Right.
we've seen her as almost a kid. We all have seen it. You know what I mean? And if you see that Leslie Visser, and I'm like, that she's still Dick Stockton's wife, isn't she?
No, actually, they got remarried to other partners.
Oh, okay. So, but I'll tell you, that was a long time too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's little things like those. It's like you hear these names now, and it's like think about it. Erin Andrews, she's a veteran. That's where we know we're flying by in life, and we're doing our own thing because we all remember when they were kids.
Right.
Maybe basically, fourth sideline reporter on something like this. Or I looked at a video, and this tells you something. I looked at a video once. You talk about NASCAR. I saw David Letterman doing the track reporting for the Indy 500 once.
Well, but he's an Indiana guy. You're talking about Erin Andrews being, I think she's in her mid to late 30s, so I'm not ready to call her a complete veteran, but
She's been around.
Well, a lot of people have been around for a while, but when we're talking about people like Leslie Visser and Michelle Tafoya, with no disrespect to Erin, who does a really super job.
Yeah.
I remember I've seen her a couple of times. I actually saw her, but didn't talk to her at the last Jacksonville game against Dallas because they had but I don't approach a lot of the network people because I try to keep my distance and let them do what they're doing. And then I bumped into her a long time ago at the New Orleans Bowl when FAU took on Memphis. And, she was talking in front of a lot of people, but she's definitely progressed throughout the ranks and done a heck of a job as what she's really done. And I give Erin a whole lot of credit. But to me, when you talk about pioneers, okay, you talk about Jane Kennedy is another one. You talk about Phyllis George, Leslie Visser, Michelle Tafoya. Those to me, and of course, we all know about Barbara Walters. That's what we're talking about now. Barbara was just unbelievable. And I'll never forget many years ago when she worked over at ABC how she worked with Frank Reynolds. Everybody knows that, with the Reagan assassination over there are a lot of voices involved in that whole situation as well. I don't know if she was with ABC then or not. But regardless, Barbara Walters been a lot of places. She wrote her own ticket in this industry. In the last 93 years and be as impactful as she was, more power to her.
Oh, and absolutely. And it's like, you brought up Phyllis George, and it's like you talk about somebody that should have probably gone 93 years because she was always beautiful. She was always healthy. And it was like, she died, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
Phyllis is unbelievable. I used to enjoy watching her for the NFL Today, and I had a chance to meet Jane Kennedy after that. I don't know how long she lasted, but Phyllis, never met the woman. And I did meet Michelle once, I think, covering the NBA out in Orlando. And, I met, again, when you're in our industry, you meet a lot of interesting people for sure. And
absolutely. And something, this is our salute to Barbara Walters. This is the thing. Like I've said this, I'm going to bring it up on a yin and yang tomorrow night. The one that is also,
okay.
We are all going to have different views on things. It's like, the show that she started, I'm not going to like it because there's a lot of hate and chaos on the stupid thing, but It doesn't mean that there's not views on. Everybody has that. We can all learn from everyone. And it's like, the one biggest thing that we can do in the next generation of journalism, next generation, I'm not going to talk about this one. This one's worthless. This generation of journalism is worthless. But if all of us at Sideline Sports could help with the next generation of it, it's like, let's get a true points. Let's get the truth out there, and let's start listening to people. Let's start getting talk and stop fighting. Because I found this out today. Before we get on to the next subject, I found this out today. I found out from somebody that. From a journalist, I saw it on Twitter. She said, "I'm sorry if I felt like I offended anyone, basically because they were saying because I made the article based off the fact that that's the exercise rooted in racism, which here or there. But she said I'm not. That title was not my title. That title was created to create chaos."
Right.
And it's like, the title of it, and it's like the title was something like exercise is white supremacy. And it was just to cause fights. And it's like, if we could add Sideline Sports, if we at Sideline Sports could help stop that. Let's get real truth and quit this whole thing. Because I don't think Barbara Walters would have started years ago with this. I think she would have wanted the truth.
Yeah, but you are right. I think the best point of what you just talked about is this is a pathetic era of journalism. And I'm going to probably be talking a great deal about that on tonight's edition of the Sports Exchange, which does follow Pundits Pundit as well. And I've got a lot of things that I'm looking forward to. So, folks, if you're tuning in here, I hope you can carry it over to the Sports Exchange because I have some really strong opinions on journalism and things like that. But yeah, this is a tough time with journalism because there's so much fake news out there. There's so many individuals delivering it. It's just a joke. And
the whole point of what I brought up with that title, with that subject, they found out that she was saying that exercise for women was originally brought for white women to have for fertility.
Right.
And all that stuff. That's what she said. Now, here or there, it can be for everyone. Doesn't matter the skin color. But that's what she brought up. But then they said the exercise is white supremacy. Now you're starting a war. And It's like that's what the journalism continues to try. And it's like it's something we all need to stop.
Right.
And we need to put squash and kibosh. And that makes me want to see a CNN and all of these others. I don't even care if it's Fox News. Go away. Because let us refresh this, start over.
Let me tell you, Jacob, if anybody that I know would appreciate when I broke into this industry, I know you would have.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember this. For me, like a lot of people, okay, I grew up with CBS, NBC, and ABC. And I actually had the little mini luxury living in Metro Detroit where, we had the Canadian, we were across from Windsor. So we got some Canadian news over there too, CBC, Canadian Broadcasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And why not? If you can steal an extra station across the border, so be it. But that's all I had.
Yeah.
And so when you got in the industry, what happened was you deserved to be there because somebody thought that you were talented enough to be there. And then once you get in, you have to stay there by being good enough. Now, I mean, don't take this wrong. I mean, podcasters to me is what you're doing right now, what we're all doing, because that's the newest thing going on.
Yeah.
I guess I've always saying, and I don't want to downplay our profession, but when I've gone to other podcast conventions, okay, to me, sometimes I think they're broadcast wannabes, okay, that don't have the journalistic skills that they got in regular old mainstream media, is what you've always referred to it. What, and I'm not downplaying the pod because everybody's doing them. The question is how many will stick around and how much work you have to put in to keep them going. Anybody can start a podcast, but it's about stability and being able to be consistent. And I think that's where a lot of the values tend to get lost a lot, Jacob. They really, really do.
Absolutely.
But you would have appreciated the era that I broke into. My first job in this industry was a producer for ABC Radio doing sports talk in Detroit with George Eichhorn. And then we built our brand going on time and time again. And I'm with you. I'm proud of where I came from. I really am. I don't have to join a group. I'm not. Our network Sideline's fantastic. South Florida Tribune. We worked hard because we were willing to put in the time and the sacrifice to make it what it is. There are other ones out there that are just making noise, and that's all they're making noise for the sake that they think that they're going to rule and utilize people for getting to work at no cost to hype their own thing. And I won't mention any names, but I've been a part of them and I've left a lot of those groups. And what's so great about what we're doing at Sideline is, we work really hard to incorporate old-fashioned values into new values. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Walter Cronkite, Eric Severide,
right.
Charles Kuralt, Chet Huntley, Chet Huntley, Brinkley,
Dan Rather.
Yeah, but Dan Rather ruined his own career with that.
But let me tell you what you don't understand. And one of the requirements I had when I was in community college was we were required to read a book called The Camera Never Blinks with Dan Rather. That was one of his best sellers.
Yeah.
So we could talk about the different kinds of journalists, how their legacy subsequently turned out. But they were pioneers nonetheless, Jacob.
Yeah.
I don't really worry about. I mean, Walter Cronkite has his own journalism school, I believe, in Arizona. Dan Patrick has one all over the place in sportscasting, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah. And, no, the biggest thing is I want to see journalism succeed, and there's a way that you can start doing it. Are we boring to the people now? Yes, but that's why there are eras. That's why sometimes you can flush something down the toilet and make it, and it's like you don't forget about it, you just learn from it. And the biggest thing is, speaking of, we're going to go into the next subject here, and it's who, it's Hamlin,
Right.
Hamlin. And I'll tell you this: the other night, I was just getting home from. I just got home from a friend. I was with a friend, so I caught this just as the thing was happening. I didn't catch the tackle, but they were doing CPR and everything. Just knowing that, and I'm like, I've seen thousands. You see thousands of injuries when we watch football, like we do. Right. We see all this, but they're doing CPR, and it was from a collapse. Just went down, just like that, and it's like, it makes you think. He's 24 years old and did that. I'm going to be 45 August 24th. You know what I'm saying? And It makes you think it's like, boy, it is so fragile. Life is so fragile and everything. And I'm like, immediately after, the only thing I said 2 tweets that one night. One was to say your prayers and love everyone. And the second one was I irritated some fantasy football people because I said, shut it down now. Because I was starting to see fantasy football people 15 minutes into this thing say things like, what's this going to do with our team? Well, and all that stuff. It's the selfishness of all this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I wanted it shut down, which I got some pissing and moaning from.
Well, number one, I don't play fantasy football, so I got to put me in that conversation.
Right.
Number two, my wife and I were driving back from Wisconsin, so I was only getting updates, along the way with the notifications I get about the situation with Damar Hamlin, and it was unfortunate. But I do want to add something that I think is vitally important to this. And when you talk about irresponsible journalists, I'm going to get into this later on so this would kind of give you guys a reason to want to carry over later on, is the irresponsible journalism by lots of credible outlets that it's never happened before is a joke. And I'll tell you why.
Chuck Hughes.
I lived it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you want to know why I can say I lived it, October 24th, 1971, at age 28, Chuck Hughes passed away, and I was at Detroit Tiger Stadium. And when they say that it never happened, no, okay, Chuck Hughes is the only death that's ever happened on an NFL field. And thankfully for Damar Hamlin, he avoided becoming the second player to ever die in an NFL field during a live action. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't mind mentioning it on this platform. I'm going to do it again later, okay? I've never seen such a disconnect with so many people not doing their research, not doing Google, and a lot of big names bombed here and a lot of big networks bombed because while my prayers and thoughts go out to Damar Hamlin, and I'll tell you one thing, I hope and pray this kid makes a full recovery. Football is an afterthought at this point. Just make sure the young man makes a full recovery. I admire the fact that his toy drive has actually gone out there, raised $6.65 million. You hate to see a guy die on the field, but again, to me, I just can't stomach irresponsible journalism where people think it's never happened and they haven't done research. There's one thing that will kill you in our business, Jacob. If you don't research properly, you lose your credibility awfully quickly.
They didn't. A lot of people just don't have any, and that's why CNN's in a lot of trouble. MSNBC's in a lot of trouble. I'm saying this, Fox is going to be also. It's like, because when you pick one side, you cover up things. You got to do the whole thing. But the toy drive, I found that out. That toy drive that he does. Here's the thing: the kid only makes $160,000 for his bonus. Makes $840,000 a year, which you know darn good and well that there's going to be caveats to that.
Right.
We already know what contracts. Most of the money's not guaranteed. You got to get incentives. You got to get all that, and you got to play 4 years to get a pension. So all he did was try to raise $2,500. He put that on the day of the thing. He put that thing on the day of the game, and just like see if he can get $2,500. See if he can get his name from the back of that, and so he could advertise that toy drive.
Yeah.
Now he's at 6.65 million, and I was saying when I heard $1 million, I want him at 10. Jen said 20. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Jen said 20. And those are the things that we have to, that are the important part of all this. It's like when we remember Tim Tebow, all the stuff that he was doing, and we got the people that played the hate, they put the hate card and chaos on him like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, he has hospitals in the Philippines. He has all kinds of stuff in like Peru, and he's got all kinds of things going on to that thing. He could have used, that was the thing. They really, even though he wasn't the greatest football player, they really could have used him on something. They could have used him on that kind of for the good, but it's like, it feels like good is boring to the journalist.
Yeah, it probably does. I'm not sure. I think what we should do with that one, though, is I think we should save that for another edition of Pundits Pundit.
We will bring in that part. It's like,
no, I know, and I'm just making a point that you are making an excellent point, because you and I could go over a lot of stuff about good isn't good to journalists, and we could have a field day on the subject. We really could. But again, it's just one of those type of things with this kid where, number one, he was a 6th round pick. I like the fact that Mike Tomlin's complimenting him as much as he did. Well, Mike, you could have taken the kid. He was in your building like Kenny Pickett. You knew the kid. He didn't have any character flaws. Why didn't you just select him later in the rounds? And then the Buffalo Bills snapped him up. So while on one end, Mike Tomlin's complimenting, I know the kid, I have the love, pick the guy up in the draft later in the rounds. What's the worst? And he ends up in a good place with Buffalo. So all these things that they're doing to talk about Damar Hamlin, that's all well and good. But a week ago, I don't think anybody knew about the guy.
Well, and no one, not very few did. Of course, any of us that watch, we will know who he is. But to tell you how little it was, he was looking for $2,500.
Right.
for that toy drive, and it's like, and he's going to be able to set up something up for the rest of his life once he wakes up. And we're going to have that hope that he wakes up.
Oh, I believe you will. I mean, let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. When I observed that Chuck Hughes situation, if you've done any homework on this and realize what we had over in Detroit at the time, he was carried off on a stretcher, and that was about it. He was gone on the field. Here, when you look at what they've done to NFL stadiums, how they rehearsed this stuff beforehand, and they had an ambulance and getting them to the hospital as quickly as they did. They've come a long way in 50 some odd years to get a player from point A to point B and save his life. And I'm glad that he's a beneficiary of it too.
And something, this is an excellent kid with no karma issues that this happened to.
Right.
And it's like, and if nothing, and that is the big thing. That's the thing, an excellent kid, no karma issues, hard worker, known as a hard worker.
Right.
And like I said, he's got $6.65 million, and he was going for $2,500, and that is showing where are we as people.
Right.
That's only going for that little because
right.
You don't know it enough. And it's like, and it takes him nearly dying and hope to pray, and he doesn't, to get that attention. Why aren't we getting this attention more? Why is it continuous chaos?
I agree. Yeah, that's true. Why does chaos have to lead to good? I don't know. But
and I'll tell you this little thing. I was watching this video. It's like Cleveland sports thing on a little podcast and video. Someone said something today that meant something for real. This kid doesn't have his 4 years for pension now. He's in 2 years in the league. It takes 4 years to get the pension. The CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, the pension was $5,600 a month. Now it's $3,500.
Really?
Yeah. They've done so much with the CBA. The medical, there's no guaranteed medical, no guaranteed much of anything. And it's like the NFL says, oh, we're going to take care of this kid. No, you won't. No, you won't. And it's like, and this guy, and I sent it on Twitter so you can go take a look at it. I think his name's Greg Rich, but he was so angry because what are you going to do with this kid? These kids, like I said, you don't get your pension till the fourth year. The amount of the NFL is 3.
Right.
It's 3 years. And it's like, what do you do with this? And now this mom is if this kid doesn't fully heal, he's going to need care the rest of his life. And he made $840,000 last year. Now you're going to make $1 million next year.
Right.
So what does this take? What does this take for the collective bargaining agreement? What does this take for the NFL to come through here, especially with medical?
Well, here's the one thing you're probably overlooking a little, maybe because you haven't been as long as I have, but I have a gut feeling. It's just a gut feeling, Jacob. Okay. The Buffalo Bills are going to step up and help this kid out the rest of his life. I really do. And here's the reason why. Terry and Kim Pagula own the Sabres and the Bills. And from out here, they're super nice people. Yeah. And knowing that the way that this young man here has brought the whole community together, Buffalo, I'm not talking about the fact that the whole league is rallied around. Let's just talk about his home area. Is all rallied around him. So I have a feeling for some reason, and yeah, obviously you've already mentioned it, 4 years, he can even make 2, let alone 3. I do think the Buffalo Bills at some point will step up and make sure this guy is taken care of. That's because if you know anything about Buffalo, which I know you do, Bills Mafia, the generosity that's between them and that community, guys like Jim Kelly still live there because obviously they found a home to connect to the community. And I think the Bills are going to step up. But yeah, I don't collective bargaining agreements, what they are.
Not too many people with $7.6 billion are that nice. A lot of them have an arrogance, but if they're that nice, that will be wonderful for him.
I hope so. Yeah. It's too bad. It really is. And nowadays when you talk about new stream media and old stream, I never saw the hit. Nobody's going to put it on their network anymore. They won't want to show it anymore. They don't. Why would you? It's something you have to kind of look away.
And something, it was such an accidental hit. It was, and then you've got this kid, T. Higgins. He's so depressed right now. And really, that was a helmet into the chest that happens 1,000 times. And it was just the right hit. I've seen this. I've seen this with things. Sometimes you have 40, 50 falls a year, and that one, that's it. That's just what happens sometimes. I don't want to see him depressed. over this, but that is where he's at there, you know?
Well, I mean, again, I didn't see the play, but based on what everybody's telling me, Jacob, clean hit, harmless. I mean, football, to me, when you look at football, it's just competitive violence is what it is.
Yeah.
And, that's all there is to it. And, everybody knows what they're signing up for. They really do, Jacob. You're signing up to play a very physical game with players that weigh between 2 and 350 pounds is what you're doing. And you're going to get hit over and over and over. We know about the CTE issues. We know about the head injuries and all that business. And again, we're seeing something that happened here twice now in 51 years. Okay, we're at an age with the National Football League, Jacob, now, okay, where they used to have three-a-day practices in pads. Now you're lucky to get in pads once or twice a week, and then you see a lot of your physical contact drills when you're playing the game. So our body's equipped to really go out there and handle this kind of punishment, after they don't get a lot of it, and that's where you have to bring the medical people in or not. But from what I've heard, and again, I've watched a lot of TV since I returned back from the Midwest, that T. Higgins shouldn't be depressed. But anytime you're on the delivering end of a thing that becomes impactful, that's one thing. Don't tell me that Daryl Stingley, was depressed after Jack Tatum, the assassin, whacked him and sent him into tomorrow. And I once tried to have him on a guest at Sports Talk at ABC, and he stood us up. Yeah, but then, a lot of it, I mean,
or Stingley.
What's that? Daryl Stingley.
Tatum or Stingley?
Huh?
Yeah, stood you up. Who stood you up? Jack
Tatum. Jack Tatum, the assassin.
See, to me, Jack Tatum, I this is so unpopular to people when I tell them this, but I don't care if it's on the video or not. Jack Tatum to me is a moron. I'm sorry, because the Immaculate Reception was a wonderful play, right, but it doesn't happen if he makes a regular play instead of being a Neanderthal. He was a Neanderthal on that play, had to go hit everybody, and there goes the ball bouncing. And it went off of him. If it went off of as per the rules at that time, if it went off the Pittsburgh player, it wouldn't have been able to catch, wouldn't have counted, but it went off Tatum.
Well, I know. I saw the play. I've seen a few. Now, I want to tell you an interesting story about that situation with Tatum when he stood us up. You ready? I know this isn't something that we plan to talk about, but since we are bringing his name up in a interesting context, I'll do that. So here I am. I'm working for ABC Radio in Detroit at the time, producing the show. And we have a guest host on there. His name, Jacob, is named Mike Berry. Okay, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. So here I am in the producer's chair, and I'm communicating back and forth with my host. He says, "What do you want me to do?" So I told him, "We're going to open up the lines and just going to let these Detroit fans go off and pretend as if nothing ever happened." And you know what? I don't even care. We'll find a way to work. If I have to get on here or whatever. Mike said, "Okay, whatever you say. You're in charge of this program, not me. I'm just." And Mike was one of the greatest guys to work with too. But Jack Tatum, we could have nailed him on a couple of things, and he didn't want to address Daryl Stingley thing is what he didn't want to, because and we had calls at our open line and back home in Detroit. Jake, it was unbelievable. It really was, and he didn't want to face the music. Jacob, that's what it is. So you say moron, you're being nice to this guy. He didn't want to face the music, Jacob.
Well, see, here's the thing. Dan Severn, Arn Anderson, the wrestler, the fighter, they've said this themselves.
Right.
This is competitive. Get them home to your family.
Right.
They said that themselves. And it's like that. It's like, guess what? Jack Tatum tried hurting somebody.
Well,
People tried hurting somebody. That's not a man. That's a bully. It's like they're trying.
The game was played back then, though, Jacob. Yeah. I mean, Jack Tatum obviously delivered arguably the most severe blow that ended up getting a guy paralyzed and subsequently died because of that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of guys that had that reputation, but none bigger than Jack Tatum, Jacob. I remember that. I mean, I'll tell you, I watched Dick Butkus play in his prime, and, he didn't have the violent temper that Jack Tatum had, but don't think if you got hit by Dick Butkus, okay, that you aren't going to be knocked into tomorrow. Now, the irony of the whole thing with Dick Butkus in relation to Chuck Hughes was Dick Butkus, and I remember it because I was there. I was one of 54,418 people at Tiger Stadium that watched this thing. And,
Yeah.
I remember a lot of it. I had to fill in a couple blanks about some of the things that set it all up. I mean, you would after 50 some years, you have to fill in a blank or two. But Dick Butkus, okay, is hard of hitting. He's a Hall of Fame guy, and he was a heck of a player. And he's the one that signaled over to the official that Chuck Hughes was down. Get this guy some help.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments where Dick Butkus wasn't a hard-nosed individual. He's a softie because he saw what transpired in front of him, and he tried to get him help. Unfortunately, the medical situation was a 1/100th of what it is then as to what it is now. And poor Chuck didn't have an opportunity to see it through. And what? One of the things I mentioned too is when you talk about the fragility of life, Jacob, I'll never forget one of my good friends and mentors, Charlie Vincent, wrote a story. And unfortunately, he died a year ago. I think on my birthday too. My birthday hadn't been too good for people lately with Pele and now this Charlie. But Charlie Vincent once wrote a column on Chuck Hughes. And you know what happened the night before Chuck died?
What's that?
Ready? Him and his wife got into an argument over his 2-year-old son chewing gum. Right. So you know where this is going? And she goes back home. He goes back to the hotel. She's actually up and stands with the players' wives, dies later, and they never had the chance to say that I love you.
Yeah. And something, that's the one thing I say about a lot of people are scared of death. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are. It bats 1,000. So there are a lot of it's death, but this is what I say with it. Do the best of your ability. Don't have any regrets, nothing left unsaid. It's like just, see, and another thing is this, and what we saw from this with Damar Hamlin, when we saw this is a 24-year-old kid. That's a tragedy or a possible tragedy. That is 24, all your life ahead of you. I don't want to hear the sadness of a 91-year-old woman, 93. And I'm just saying, as much as we talked about this, that's not tragic. She lived her life.
Oh, it's a celebration of life, is what it is.
That's a celebration of life. See, people get a tragedy over grandma dying. I'm saying that people aren't close to their grandma, but I don't know what the thing is. They get this tragedy, and it's like, here's the deal. That's a celebration of life. Enjoy it. It's like the sadness that you can get out of something like that is you're not going to have her around anymore to go tell her that your big accomplishments, whatever you can get. We all miss them. I miss Dad, but like I said, I had an older dad, and he went to 82. I got plenty of time with him. A lot of people don't get that.
Yeah, well, I have a very different way of doing my thing here. Okay, are you a cat person?
Dogs, but cats are cool.
Okay, well, my philosophy is, I happen to have 2 cats here, and in my later years, I've had cats because they're a lot easier when you need to travel instead of dogs.
Yeah,
but I have no fear of death at all. And if anybody ever sees me on the road driving, you'll know full well now he's. My wife calls me a crazy man, and she says, now you like it like Mikey likes life cereal. Okay,
yeah, right.
But and she can't believe I responded. Oh my God, she's got to come up with a new name. And I'm the Motor City Madmouth on the air. Not that we would display it tonight. But here's my philosophy about life. You ready? Morris had 9 lives. I got to make the most of the one I have.
Exactly, and that's what I aim at. And I want to talk one more thing tonight before we get, because it's 2 of us, okay? It's 2 of us, so I got a little short on the thing. But I want to bring this part up. You had, what was his name? Nora Ruggles, I believe. Noah Ruggles. He was the Ohio State kicker.
Right.
Wanted to bring this part up.
Sure.
Misses a 50-yard field goal to win the game. And just like every other season, these kickers, whatever they miss, these are kids. They keep getting threatened. Their life threatened online. This stuff keeps happening. You know what I'm saying? And this keeps happening, and we up to a point we're not thinking. We're not thinking here. It's like whether it's gambling issue, whether it's everything. This is what the journalism isn't stopping. This isn't what the journalism of the terrorism we talk about isn't controlling, isn't doing everything. They don't just say something like, "Oh, he's they got threatened, they got this, they got." It's like, why are they? Is the question. You know what I mean? Why they? And it's like, why isn't this more of a story? Why these are people? These are some. I'm going to say this: they're losers. Why are you threatening a kid? Over they did their best. You do miss. They treat these people subhuman.
Yeah, but you know what your problem? Not you know what the real problem with this whole thing is, Jacob. Unlike in the past, okay, is this: you got social media, which will trigger everything. I don't think that this. I mean, think about it. If I've seen it in soccer in the past, where heaven forbid somebody makes a mistake, these guys get killed. And many years ago, Dan Devine got his dog killed up in Green Bay, I think, when they were struggling. And I'm not putting this is no indictment on Green Bay by any stretch. But anytime you have social media and you bring up one incident, it's going to lead to many, many more because of the publicity that you have. Listen, kickers are human beings, okay? We had to deal with an issue about a year ago in Jacksonville where Urban Meyer's kicking Josh Lambo, okay? And, of course, the best part about it was Meyer got fired, so that's okay with all his drama. But regardless, social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case it may be, to me, does not help the situation at all. But you're right; he's just a kid, for God's sake.
Well, the thing about it, and this will be it. This is going to be it because we're getting ourselves on the Sports Exchange very soon. So that's I want to hurry so we can go on to that. I know you got to this thing, but here's where this is what I say right now. They've got to a point. Mike Tyson said this himself. Too many people in this world have proved that they have never been punched in the face before. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it.
Right.
And I'm not saying we need to go get violent and go get punched in the face, but some people, I think I talked about Dan Severty on our pre-show tonight.
Right.
And it's like, there isn't a way anybody would go to him. I mean, the dude's 245 pounds. They're not going to get him to do anything, but they go right behind the keyboard if he was to have any of that. If he was to have the political philosophy that was different, if it was any of that stuff, they would go behind that. Who's going to mess with that guy? Greatest fighter ever, 101 career wins. Who's going to do it? No one. But that problem is with people. This is why there's people talk about Jake Paul would have a great chance against Mike Tyson. Give me a break. Right. And the prime Mike Tyson. And it's like, this is an era that doesn't have a thought process of what real badass is because they all think they're badass.
Right.
And they don't understand what badass is because they all think so themselves. They think behind the scenes. They think about we're behind the thing, and then they talk tough. It's like so. Then they think of Jake Paul, who throws every fight. He is choreographing every fight, and they think that's badass. They think it's real when you see the pro wrestling, which is when you talk about your pro wrestling. It's all acrobats now.
Right.
They think that's badass. And it's like all of that happens because they think they are themselves. There isn't a Ted Williams. There's not a hero behind the thing.
Right.
Everybody's around. That's my point.
Again, we can interpret any way we want, Jacob, all we want about how we do this and that. But you know what? One of the things that we can always agree on is you talk about a particular topic and it can be blown up 9 million different ways.
Yeah. And
that's the new reality. We always talk about, Jacob, old media versus new media. And I'm going to say this. I will always be partial towards old media. Okay.
Forever.
I will. I mean, I have to acclimate to the way the times have changed. I realize it. I don't mind it. I thrive on the challenge to do it. I have no problem with it. But the values these days absolutely cotton pick and stink.
Yeah. And we're going to go and we're going to bringing up the whole cotton picking stinking values of today. We're going to get that straight over to the Sports Exchange, where I'm going to be there along with Scott here. And we do a double header on this Wednesday, and I'm going to be proud of that. And I think we had a great show tonight, Scott. We didn't have our Jay, and she had AOL dial-up, so we don't know what happened there. But I would say this, though. We're going to have a great show on that one, too, aren't we?
Oh, I expect to. Hey, listen, Jacob, whether Jay's on, Jennifer's on, whoever, you and I'm looking forward to our first opportunity on Pundits View, and then I'm looking forward to bringing in No Limits, which is my one-on-one show as well. So, I've been around a lot of people in 43 years in this industry. And I know the good ones and the bad ones, and I don't feel there are many bad ones, but there are some. But in the short time I've gotten to know you,
Yeah.
I do believe that we have a strong connection is what we really, really do. And that's why you and I can always appear on multiple shows together because as I always tell you, GMTA, Jacob, great minds think alike, my friend.
And we've had some great minds on that. And I'm glad to have this show now where I can sit up and do this instead of waving around in bed and fanning myself or whatever.
But hey, listen, you're a pro and me, well, folks, draw your own conclusions. I don't care. Everybody's got opinions and I'll deal with it. All I know is they can say what they want about me, but I guarantee you one thing, nobody will ever tell you that I'm not prepared to do what I have to do. I take this business seriously. And I have for over 4 decades.
And I got to get on because we're going to get on our show soon. And for the Pundits Pundit, Jacob Christner, Scott Morganroth, and Motor City Madmouth, this is the Pundits Pundit. We will see you next week, hopefully with the full crew. Have a good night.
Good night.
See you soon.
Yeah.